I never expected that planning my dream wedding would turn into a nightmare orchestrated by my boyfriend's vindictive ex-wife, but her sabotage became the catalyst for the most satisfying revenge I've ever executed. My name is Amanda Martinez, and this is the story of how Jessica Turner destroyed the most important day of my life, only to have her own secrets exposed at her baby shower in front of everyone she cared about. When I started dating Michael Turner 2 years ago, I knew his divorce from Jessica had been messy, but I thought their co-parenting relationship had stabilized into something civil and manageable for the sake of their 8-year-old daughter Emma. Jessica had remarried quickly after their divorce to a wealthy businessman named Richard, and she seemed to have moved on with her life, so I foolishly believed that she wouldn't interfere with our relationship or our plans to build a future together. Michael and I fell deeply in love, and when he proposed last Christmas, I was over the moon about finally having the fairy tale wedding I had dreamed of since childhood, complete with the perfect venue, stunning dress, and all our family and friends gathered to celebrate our happiness. The first signs of Jessica's interference began subtly during our engagement when she started creating scheduling conflicts that prevented Michael from attending important wedding planning appointments, claiming that Emma needed extra time with her father due to supposed emotional difficulties at school. Jessica would call with emergencies that required Michael's immediate attention just as we were meeting with vendors or finalizing details, forcing me to handle most of the wedding arrangements alone while he dealt with whatever crisis she had manufactured. She also began making comments to Emma about how weddings were just expensive parties that don't really mean anything, which upset the little girl and created tension between Michael and me when Emma started asking why we were spending so much money on something that might not last. I tried to address these issues with Michael, but he was caught in an impossible position between wanting to support our relationship and needing to maintain peace with Jessica for Emma's sake, so he often downplayed her behavior and asked me to be patient while she adjusted to our engagement. Looking back, I realized that Jessica was testing boundaries and gathering information about our wedding plans that she would later use to maximum destructive effect, but at the time I attributed her behavior to normal adjustment difficulties rather than malicious intent. The wedding sabotage escalated dramatically in the weeks leading up to our ceremony when Jessica began actively interfering with our vendors and attempting to cancel or change our arrangements without our knowledge or consent. She called our caterer pretending to be me and tried to change our menu to include foods that Michael was allergic to, claiming we had decided to surprise him with his favorite dishes that would have actually sent him to the hospital. Jessica also contacted our florist and attempted to cancel our flower order, saying we had decided to go with a more minimalist approach, which would have left us with no decorations for our outdoor ceremony. Most devastatingly, she somehow obtained a copy of our guest list and began calling our friends and family members to inform them that the wedding had been postponed due to cold feet and that new invitations would be sent out later. By the time we discovered what she was doing, several out-of-town guests had already canceled their travel plans, and we had to spend precious time in the final week before our wedding calling everyone to confirm that the ceremony was still happening as scheduled. Michael was furious when he learned about Jessica's interference, but she denied everything and claimed that any confusion must have resulted from miscommunication or vendor errors rather than deliberate sabotage. The morning of our wedding day brought the most devastating blow when we discovered that Jessica had somehow gained access to our venue the night before and vandalized the decorations we had spent months planning and thousands of dollars creating. She had cut the power to the refrigerated storage units containing our flowers, causing them to wilt and die overnight, and she had mixed salt water with the fresh water in all the vases, ensuring that any surviving flowers would quickly deteriorate. Jessica had also tampered with our sound system, cutting crucial wires that would prevent our music from playing during the ceremony, and she had hidden stink bombs throughout the reception area that would create an unbearable smell once they were activated by heat or movement. Most cruelly, she had taken scissors to my wedding dress, which had been stored at the venue for the morning preparations, cutting delicate lace and beading in places that would be visible but not immediately obvious until I was already walking down the aisle. When we arrived at the venue that morning expecting to have the perfect wedding day, we instead found a disaster zone that looked like it had been hit by a tornado, with dead flowers, broken decorations, and the unmistakable evidence that someone had deliberately tried to destroy our special day. Despite the chaos and devastation, Michael and I decided to proceed with the ceremony using whatever decorations we could salvage and borrowing a simple dress from my sister that was close enough to my size to work for the occasion. The wedding was beautiful in its own way because of the love we shared and the support of our family and friends, but the day was forever tainted by Jessica's cruelty and her determination to hurt us during what should have been the happiest moment of our lives. I spent our honeymoon not relaxing on a tropical beach, but researching private investigators and planning the most thorough and devastating revenge against someone who had shown such complete disregard for basic human decency. I knew that Jessica's actions went beyond normal jealousy or co-parenting difficulties and crossed into criminal territory with destruction of property and harassment, but I also knew that legal action alone wouldn't give me the personal satisfaction I craved after what she had put us through. During those 2 weeks in Hawaii, I developed a comprehensive plan that would expose Jessica's true character to everyone in her social circle while also gathering evidence of her ongoing affair that I had begun to suspect based on her erratic behavior and frequent unexplained absences from her marriage to Richard. The opportunity for perfect revenge presented itself when Jessica announced that she was pregnant with Richard's child and began planning an elaborate baby shower to celebrate what she claimed was the happiest time in her life. Jessica sent out invitations to all her friends, family members, and Richard's business associates, planning a lavish party at an upscale country club where she could show off her perfect life and her devoted husband's wealth. However, what Jessica didn't know was that I had hired the same private investigator who had helped uncover my stepmother's fraud in a previous situation, and he had been documenting Jessica's secret affair with her personal trainer Marcus for the past 6 months. The evidence included photographs of Jessica and Marcus entering hotels together, credit card records showing that she had been paying for romantic dinners and gifts for him using Richard's money, and even audio recordings of conversations where Jessica discussed her plans to divorce Richard after the baby was born so she could claim substantial alimony and child support. Most damaging of all, the investigator had discovered that Jessica wasn't entirely certain whether Richard or Marcus was the father of her unborn child, but she was planning to let Richard believe he was the father regardless of the paternity test results she had secretly ordered. The baby shower was held on a beautiful Saturday afternoon in the country club's main ballroom, decorated with expensive flowers and elegant table settings that Richard had paid for without knowing he was celebrating his wife's affair and potential fraud. I arrived at the party dressed impeccably and carrying what appeared to be an expensive gift, but which actually contained a carefully prepared presentation that would expose Jessica's affair and lies to everyone who mattered in her life. I waited until the gift opening ceremony when Jessica was the center of attention and all the guests were gathered around her, filming and photographing what they thought was a joyous celebration of new life and marital happiness. When Jessica opened my gift box, she found a beautiful picture frame containing a collage of photographs showing her with Marcus in various romantic situations, along with printed copies of text messages where she discussed her affair and her plans to deceive Richard about the baby's paternity. The room fell completely silent as Jessica's face turned white and she realized that her carefully constructed facade was crumbling in front of everyone she had tried to impress with her perfect life and loving marriage. Richard's reaction was immediate and devastating as he grabbed the evidence from Jessica's trembling hands and began reading the text messages aloud to the stunned crowd of guests who couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Jessica tried to claim that the evidence was fabricated and that I was trying to frame her out of jealousy over her happiness, but Richard had already recognized his wife's handwriting and the intimate details that only she would know about their private life. He baby shower guests, many of whom were prominent members of their social community, watched in shock as Richard confronted Jessica about her affair and demanded to know whether he was really the father of the child she was carrying. Jessica's attempts to deny the affair fell apart when several guests admitted that they had suspected something was going on between her and Marcus, and when Richard called Marcus directly from the party, putting him on speakerphone for everyone to hear his stammered confession about their relationship. The elaborate baby shower that Jessica had planned as a celebration of her perfect life instead became the public forum for the complete destruction of her marriage, reputation, and social standing in front of everyone whose opinion she valued most. The aftermath of the baby shower revelation was swift and comprehensive as Richard immediately filed for divorce and demanded a paternity test before agreeing to any financial support for Jessica or her unborn child. Jessica's friends and family members, who had previously supported her during her divorce from Michael, now saw her true manipulative nature and began distancing themselves from someone who was capable of such elaborate deception and cruelty. The scandal spread quickly through their social circle, with details of Jessica's affair and wedding sabotage becoming the subject of gossip that followed her everywhere she went in their small community. Most satisfying of all, Jessica's behavior toward Emma changed dramatically as she realized that her actions had consequences that extended beyond just hurting Michael and me, and she finally began focusing on being a better co-parent rather than seeking revenge for perceived slights. Today, Michael and I have renewed our vows in a beautiful ceremony that Jessica had no opportunity to sabotage, and we've built a peaceful family life that includes Emma, who now sees her mother's true character and appreciates the stability and love we provide in contrast to Jessica's chaos and manipulation.